Okay, then I'm going to turn the recording on. So this is class 2, presentation day, July 28th, and Minami is our first presenter.
Okay. Good morning. Today I'm going to introduce the sleep deprivation. Do you know what sleep deprivation is? It means that the condition of being awake and not getting sleep enough. Sleep deprivation seems like an individual problem, but in real, it is a big social problem in Japan. Please look at this graph. The red one is Japan. The average sleep time in Japan is shortest in the world. The time is about 7 hours. In this short presentation, I will explain sleep deprivation. Second, the reasons. Third, how to solve it. First, I will tell you sleep deprivation in detail. There are two big problems. First, there are many people who suffered from sleep disorders. In modern society, there are many night person and short time sleep is progressing. As a result, the average sleep time of Japan is shorter and shorter. Second, increasing economical loss. Sleep deprivation leads to inefficient, so even if we work hard, there is no difference between other countries. Second, sleep deprivation is condition of being lack of sleep. I did tell you why many people suffer from sleep deprivation. There are some reasons of being sleep deprivation, such as working too hard, long commuting time, long using smartphone time. These are the specific examples. For these things, it is said that sleep deprivation will happen by various reasons. I think it can be said there is not a good environment for sleep. Third, I will show you how to solve sleep deprivation. For example, going back to regular life, having a time to relax, doing exercise, not seeing smartphone before sleeping, being conscious of the time of getting up. I think these ways are easy to do, so if you feel lack of sleep, you should try it. Summary, sleep deprivation is condition of being lack of sleep. There are many reasons to happen sleep deprivation. There are many solutions, so you should try them. Thank you. Do you have any questions? I'm sorry, your mic is off.
Sorry, I kept my mic off so I wasn't making noise in the presentation. Okay, thank you very much. I am a good candidate for your advice because I got 4 hours of sleep last night. So I need your help on this. And I particularly liked your picture on the last slide of the daily routine of people. That's a very nice picture. So thank you for a nice start. And our next presenter is Aoi. Are you here? Yes. There you are. Are you set to present? Oh, yes, looks like it. When you're presenting, please do not shut off the references for the picture slide. Minami, I didn't have any time to see it. So please, everybody, just pause the last slide so it's possible to see it for at least a few seconds. Thank you. Okay, I'm done talking. Aoi, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone. Have you heard this word tailgating? These days, I often hear about it. but how many people know detailed information about it? I think maybe most people just hear this name on news or article. To briefly explain first, tailgating is dangerous driving. Now, we are enough age to get a driver's license, so this problem is related to our life. Through my presentation, I want you to know about tailgating. In my presentation, I will talk about 3 main points. First point is, what is tailgating?
Excuse me,
Second,
the correct way to say this word is tailgating. Tail is T-A-I-L.
Okay.
Tailgating. Yeah.
Thank you. Second point is correct tailgating situation. Third point is what we can do to solve this problem. Then I start explaining about tailgating. Tailgating is dangerous driving and unnecessary action against other vehicles on the road. Unnecessary action is like sudden braking, not because of danger prevention, provoke to run fast, and needlessly honking. These actions cause a car accident. These days, there have been fatal accidents due to tailgating. Next, I will tell you about current tailgating situation. Despite the increase in news reports and alert, the damage caused by tailgating is increasing year by year. In 2020 survey, about 58% of drivers say they had experienced tailgating. The number of violations of the obligation to maintain the distance between vehicles increased 1.8 times from 2017 to 2018. And a law against tailgating was made by the increase in accident. It has been decided the imprisonment of up to 5 years or a fine of up to 1 billion yen will be imposed. Now, maybe you understand this problem is awful. Then to avoid being damaged by tailgating, what we can do? First, we should keep sufficient distance between vehicles. Second, if there is a suspicious car, we should give way. Finally, we should attach a drive recorder and sticker to warm it. In case of damage by tailgating, lock the car and windows and call the police immediately. This is a correct way of coping. To include my presentation, I would like to summarize the important point. Tailgating is dangerous driving and cause a car accident. These accidents are increasing year by year, and law was made to punish tailgating in 2020. In order not to be harmed due to tailgating, we should be careful on a daily basis. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Yeah, it would be good to know what the correct distance is to keep between vehicles. That's an important thing in order to avoid tailgating. And the other thing to know is why people tailgate, because that's an interest. That's important too when you consider about tailgating. So those are two things you might want to follow up on: the distance, the correct distance, and the reason why people tailgate. Those would be two things to follow up on. Okay, some cars actually, including ours, they have a built-in function that if you get too close to a car in front of you, the car makes a noise. It goes beep, 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 beep. So that indicates that you're driving too close. So some cars are starting to be equipped with something to try to prevent accidents like that. Okay, that's good. Thank you. Then let us go to Kotone.
Yes.
Oh, there she is. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Today, I'm going to talk about alien species. Look at this picture. This is a watermelon with a big hole in the middle. Yes, and what do you think? Who do you think ate this watermelon? The answer is raccoon from Holding Country. Sometimes they eat field crops and it bothers Japanese farmer every year. And there are a lot of serious problems in Japan caused by alien species. Today, I'm going to talk about 3 points about alien species. The first point is what is alien species and how many kinds of alien species are there in Japan? And second, I will show you 2 famous examples of alien species. And finally, I will introduce the countermeasures by government and community. In the first, what is alien species? Alien species mean non-native species, not Japanese indigenous animals and plants. Then I will ask you, how many alien species are there in Japan? 1,000 or 100? Surprisingly, the answer is there are over 2,000 kinds of alien species, according to the Japanese government ministry. Since Meiji period, Japanese have been importing many kinds of animals and plants around the world for various purposes. For example, as a food, pet, environmental tool, and so on. And once they released into the wild, they start to breed and violate Japanese biodiversity. Then I will show you 2 famous examples. The first is red swamp crayfish. Probably almost everyone knows them. In fact, I kept them when I was a child. In normal situation, they live only in Mississippi River, which is in US and Mexico, but 1927, they're imported as a farmed American bullfrog's feed. First, there were only 27 red swamp crayfish in Japan, but after they were released in the rice field and continue to breed. Now they're spread everywhere in Japan. What is the problem is that they eat Japanese native species and cut the water weed, and it leads to decline the quality of water. The second is mongoose. They imported to Okinawa to get rid of habu and mice. However, mongoose did not eat them. They eat other Japanese species. For example, Yambarukuina, lizard, frogs, they're all endangered animals. And the number of Japanese native animals are decreased. Finally, I will show you the countermeasures by government. In 2005, Japanese government implemented the law of alien species. In the law, animal import is controlled strictly and extermination was started. Now, not only government, but also community try to get rid of them. For example, some TV programs, for example, Tetsuan Dash, called us to exterminate the alien species. In addition, there are 3 important principles to protect Japanese species. The first is do not let alien species into Japan. The second is do not abandon them anymore. And finally, do not spread alien species in Japan. Please remember them to protect Japanese diversity. And if you keep alien species as a pet, make sure that you take care of them until their end. So to sum up my presentation, alien species were imported by people, and there is threatening Japanese biodiversity. And third, government is trying to exterminate them. Here are the URLs for the visuals. Thank you for your kind attention. Do you have any questions?
No, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, let's go to Tenma, please. Thank you. Half of you do not have your cameras on. Aoi, Marin, Shione, Kanta, Akito, Kaede, Saede. Let us see you, please. Your classmates would like to see you after they finish their presentation. Okay, there's Tenma. Thank you.
Hello everyone. Today I will introduce about suicide problem in Japan. Suicide is a death caused by one's own intentional act. Japan's suicide rate is high compared to the rest of the world. This is a serious social problem in Japan and needs to be solved immediately. So I choose this as a presentation topic. These are my presentation outlines. First, I will explain about Japan's suicide problem. Second, I will explain about factors leading to suicide. Third, I will explain about solution of this problem. Look at this graph. This graph shows the cause of death in Japan. According to this graph, you may feel that death by suicide in Japan is low. However, actually, the suicide rate in Japan is very high in the world and is the highest among the G7 countries. In Japan, about 30,000 people die by suicide in a year. Some say that the number of people who attempt suicide is 10 times that number. Therefore, it is thought that more than 300,000 people attempt to take their own lives every year.
Wow.
It is said that one person's suicide and suicide attempt has a serious psychological impact on 5 to 6 people around it. So it can be said that every year, 1.5 million people suffer from the problem of suicide. Why are there so many suicides in Japan? According to suicide statistics, it is men in the 50s and 60s who commit the most suicide. It is considered to be a stressful age with health and financial problems. And it is also thought to have a lot to do with the economic trends in society. Suicide rates tend to go up during recessions. If the unemployment rate goes up, the suicide rate goes up. This is why men in their 50s and 60s have the highest suicide rates. The suicide rates among teenagers is also high compared to the rest of the world. And Japan is the only developed country where suicide is the leading cause of death among young people. This can be attributed to problems in friendship and parent-child relationships. Various efforts been made by the Japanese government to resolve this situation.
Mhm.
In recent years,
Mm.
Japan's suicide rate has been on the decline.
Mhm.
However, at present, we can only rely on government data to understand the reality of suicide in Japan.
Mhm.
Therefore, the specific process by which individual suicide victims commit suicide is still unclear. So, in order to solve the suicide problem in Japan, an accurate survey of the actual is necessary. This is my presentation summary. Japan has a very high suicide rates and factors contributing to suicide
Yeah.
early generation. But there are challenges to solving this problem. Thank you for your kind attention. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, it's really hard to get the data, isn't it? To get really to know how many people, because either they're dead or their family doesn't want to tell them. So it's very hard, but it's quite shocking, isn't it, that the number of suicide in Japan is so high, and for so many reasons, and for so many age groups. That's really a shame. It's really a shame. Anyway, thank you for bringing up this important social problem. And if you're in trouble or you know somebody who is in trouble, try to support them as much as you can. I guess that's the best thing we can do. Okay, thank you very much. Then Kohei, are you up for the presentation?
Hi, today I will talk about gender gap. The gender gap is a global problem. But today I'd like to talk about the current situation in Japan. Have you ever thought about gender gap? It is one of the biggest problems we have to cope with. Gender gap refers to the difference between men and women, a problem that is particularly related to women. Look at this number. Do you know what number this is? This is the ranking of Japan's gender gap index. Japan's ranking was 120th out of 156 countries. The lower the rank, the greater the gender gap. That is why Japanese needed to think about this problem a lot. What is the gender gap? First, I will talk about gender gap more detail. For example, have you ever thought the pink is the girl's color and blue is the boy's color? This is also kind of gender gap. It should not matter which color is worn by which gender. I think this thinking is caused by stereotype. It is difficult for us to change our prejudice because it had made since we were child. These reasons may also be why it is difficult to eliminate the gender gap. By the way, in the past, the gender gap was a bigger problem in Japan than it is now. As for the right to vote, it was only after the war that women were allowed to vote in Japan. The status of women has been gradually improved by various women activities. Finally, in 1985, the Equal Employment Opportunity Law was finally passed to eliminate gender inequality in employment. This is why the gender gap is such a big issue, especially in Japan. Why is this a serious problem? Second, I have to explain why this problem is so serious in Japan. The gender gap index is determined by 4 items. Among the items, Japan is particularly low in the areas of politics and economics. For one thing, women's work is free compared to men's work. Women do free housework every day. The other thing I'd like to talk about is stereotypes I mentioned earlier. People tend to think that women stay at home and take care of the children, while men work and earn money. For all these reasons, this problem is so serious in Japan. Moreover, what can we do? Finally, what can we do? For example, in terms of education, I think we can teach more about gender principles in school. The government should also provide better treatment for women who raise children. Many women quit their jobs as soon as their children are born. We need to know how hard it is to raise children and think in terms of balancing work and family. Then I think the most important thing is men and women thinking of each other. I believe that by activity, seeing to know each other, we can reduce the gender gap. Summary, I will conclude this presentation. First, gender gap is caused by stereotype, and it is difficult to change prejudice instantly. Second, childcare and wage issue make it difficult for women to work. Finally, the most important thing is thinking this problem positively. We are equal. Thank you. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you. Could you say again, what is the gender gap? Because I missed your explanation. What is gender gap? You just talked about blue and pink.
Blue and pink?
No, I that's not, what is gender gap?
Oh. Sorry. Gender gap refers to the difference between men and women.
In what sense? Yes, okay, thank you. I'll have to review your slides. Okay,
Alright.
thank you. Okay, thanks. Okay, thank you. Then let's go to Kaede.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Can hear and see you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good morning. My name is Kaide. Today I will talk about suicide. It means the action of killing oneself intentionally. I chose suicide as a topic of the presentation because it is a big problem in Japan, and it is a topic familiar to us young people. Do you know how many suicides in Japan are in the world? Look at this graph. This graph shows the changes in suicide rates in developed countries, and this red line shows Japan's suicide rate. Japan's suicide rate is declining year by year, but in 2016, it recorded a high suicide rate of 15%, and it continues to run at the top of developed countries in disgrace. In this short presentation, I will explain first suicide situation in Japan and cause of youth suicide. Second, cases related to suicides. And third, what we can do. First, I'm going to talk about suicide situation in Japan. Look at the graph on the left. This graph shows the changes in the number of suicides in Japan. Red line shows female, blue line shows male, and green line shows the total. The annual number of suicides has been declining year by year thanks to the economic recovery and the expansion of the consultation system. But the situation is still severe. The suicide problem in Japan has a big feature. Look at the graph on the right. This graph shows youth mortality rate in developed countries. In many countries, accident mortality is higher than suicide mortality. But only in Japan, suicide mortality is much higher than accident mortality. So from now on, I would like to focus on youth suicide. According to the survey conducted by the Japanese Foundation, there are 4 causes of youth suicide: bullying, family discord, heartbreak, and financial distress. Maybe problems related to relationships are the main cause of youth suicide. Next, I'm going to talk about cases related to suicide. In October 2017, the bodies of 9 men and women were found in an apartment in Zama City, Kanagawa Prefecture. It should be noted that the 9 people who were killed met the suspect through social networking service on the topic of suicide. Why did such young people post "I want to die" and connect with murderer? In order not to repeat the same case, it is urgent to solve the youth suicide problem. Finally, I'm going to talk about what we can do. The most important thing to prevent young people from committing suicide is the support of those who are around them. It's important to listen carefully to their voices rather than imposing common sense or giving advice. For young people who are forced to think about suicide, it is a great support to think that there is someone who understands them. So to wrap up my presentation, the number of suicides is declining year by year, but it is still a big problem. Suicide of young people is especially serious. A murder case occurred due to an invitation for suicide on social networking service. And support from people around them is important to prevent suicide. Thank you for your kind attention. Do you have any questions?
Yes, what is youth? What is your definition of youth? How old do you consider is youth?
Maybe under 20 years old.
Maybe tonight you have to decide that. And you had a graph that showed youth suicide, so it's necessary to know what age that is showing. Okay, I don't need your answer now, but it's just a point for everybody to keep in mind, that it's important to know the data that you are collecting, and to be able to explain the terms. Okay, because that's super important. Okay, thank you. Then, excuse me, there's somebody at the door, so this is a good time just to take a 1-minute break. Just a moment. Oh no. Oh, I just realized that all of these presentations may not be recorded. Okay, we'll deal with that problem later. But okay, so first of all, thank you. That was a very interesting presentation. And the second thing is, may I just make another comment about when we're using data, it's always important to try to get the most newest data that you can find. And I see from your graphs that they are from 平成28年。平成28年は何だろう。何だろうじゃなくて、いつでしょうかね。2017 maybe?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's already 4 years old, and maybe the situation is a little bit newer. I mean, if that's the newest data you can find, well, that's the newest data you can find. But it's always good when we're looking at topics like this to have the newest one. Sometimes it's not necessary, and we want historical data, but maybe it would be nice to have a little bit newer data if it's available, first of all, and if it's important. Okay, so that's my only comment, but otherwise great and nice explanation and good pictures, everything. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Now let's go on and let's go to Ayumi and then Shoei. Right, that's related to tailgating. So let's listen to Ayumi.
Good morning, everyone. I turned 18 in February of this year, so I've been attending a driving school 3 months ago to get the driver's license. Therefore, I was interested in the social problem of road rage and choose it as a topic. This is my outline. First, I will briefly explain about road rage. Road rage is dangerous act that intentionally interfere with the driving of a motor vehicle. I would like to introduce some typical dangerous driving behavior. Number 1, choose the cross the distance between cars. Number 2, meandering driving. Number 3, sudden braking not intended to avoid danger. Number 4, overtake a car in a dangerous way. Number 5, intimidation with horn and unnecessary high beam. And number 6, throwing things, hitting cars and landing are also included in road traffic violation. This dangerous act leads to serious traffic accident, so it's serious social problem. Do you know the famous accident that happened on the highway? This is fatal car accident caused in 2017 and 2 people died. The cause of this accident was road rage. In the wake of this accident, society began to consider road rage and social problem. This is very sad news, and I think we should never drive in the dangerous way. And finally, I recommended installing a drive recorder to protect yourself from trouble and dangers because it's evidence. As you can see from this graph, the demand from drive recorder is increased year by year. But what I think is most important to avoid accident is considerate. When you drive, be more considerate of the other person's position and try to friendly manner. Thank you for listening.
Oh, thank you. I think maybe I missed it, but what is road rage?
煽り運転 in Japanese.
No, but what does it mean?
A road rage is dangerous act that intentionally interfere with the driving of a motor vehicle.
Okay, and okay, so why do people drive dangerously?
Maybe I think people angry anything or busy, so I want to go early.
Okay, all right, thank you. Yes, and that's, do you know what the word rage means?
Yes.
Yes, rage means extreme anger. And so that's probably a good thing to include when you're explaining about road rage. Because it's not the fact of dangerous driving. You could be dangerous driving for a number of reasons, like you're sleepy or you're a bad driver. But it's a different intention, I think, in this case. Okay, so good to check that up. Okay, thank you. Then let us go to our last presenter, who is Shoei. Thank you. Oh, here he is, right here.
Okay.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. Today, I will introduce about declining birth rate. First of all, have you ever thought about declining birth rate? Declining birth rate is a serious problem in Japan.
Mm.
It means the phenomenon that the future population will decrease as the birth rate declines. Look at this picture. The picture shows the transition of a population from 1989 to 2019. Especially, the number of children is declining. So we must think about this problem because this problem has an impact on our future. So I will explain this problem. There are three main things I would like to talk on this presentation. First is the explanation about this problem. The second is explanation of current situations. The third is about measures to solve this problem. Declining birth rate has been regarded as a problem since the end of the World War II. The problem is expanding now. There are some reasons why declining birth rate problem is accelerating in Japan. I will pick up two reasons. First is women's social advancement has progressed. Look at this graph. This graph shows only housework women is decreasing, but working together parents are increasing. So it became difficult to balance childcare and work balance because of these things. Second, unmarried rate has increased. This graph shows the men and women unmarried rate are increasing. The unmarried rate has increased in recent years because the way of thinking of marriage has changed. So the number of children born decreases because the unmarried rate has increased. In this way, the problem is progressing balance of combination of these factors. Now situation is more serious. Look at this picture. The picture shows the progress of declining birth rate for 70 years. You can see the number is more and more decreasing. If the problem continues, the economic burden on young people will be getting bigger and bigger. Look at next picture. The picture shows that some young generation supports one elderly person. You can see the burden per young person is increasing in 2015. So the future that one young person will support one elderly person is near. In this serious situation, some solutions are detected. But before I mentioned, it is difficult for to solve the unmarried problem because the main cause is change of people's way of thinking. So in Japanese government focus on measures to make a good environment to parents that have children or not. For example, child care support and work style reform. Child care support means that financial for families with children and establishment of more nurseries. And work style reform for children means asking a company to promote men's child care vacation to increase male child care participation and promote employment support after maternity vacation of women. However, the work style reform is not enough, as everyone knows, because traditional stereotype that women should raise children prevents this measure. Now let's wrap up my presentation. The cause of declining birth rate is various. The problem is more serious now, so it may put heavy burden on us in the future. But there are some measures to solve this problem. declining birth rate is one of the big problem and that may decline Japan. So first of all, it is important for us to understand the problem of it, and it is necessary to change the traditional stereotypes and create an environment that men and women can work together to raise children. Finally, we should have fixable thinking to solve it. Thank you.
Yes, okay, thank you. Yes, thank you. Yeah, it's a huge problem, isn't it? And there's many proposals for solutions, but they're not going fast enough to beat the problem, right? To solve the problem. The problem is growing faster than the solutions are coming up to solve them. So yes, okay, thank you very much. All right, well, we've come to the end. Thank you all. Now, I will proceed and I'll try to upload the recording as soon as possible, but please know that your recording, your presentation might not have been recorded. I have to check this, okay? And I'll let you know later, but I think I may have made a mistake and not all the presentations were recorded.